Hello, and welcome back to Flicker with Jack and Scott, the channel where two dear friends, critics and cinephiles, provide your weekly fix for that cinematic itch. I am your co-host, Jack Hanley, here as always with my cinematic partner in crime, Scott Ogner. How are you doing, my friend?
Hey, I'm excellent. How about yourself? Glad to be
I'm
back
doing
here
great.
chatting with you about some more Oscar stuff.
I'm loving this because, Scott, this is the big one.
This is the big one.
The one we're waiting for here.
Yeah.
This will be the deciding factor in the Oscar pool. And I would say no. I think by this point I've always lost to you early in the night. But
I was thinking back on some of our previous recordings so far, and I think this year it's going to be a lot closer because I think there's maybe some more obvious calls. But I also think I may have made some blunders in my thoughts here. So I think you may be able to pull off a win this time around.
You're just taunting me because you know my record against you. So let's take it on. This is the big one, Best Picture. And as always, let's go over our nominees for the category. Nominated for Best Picture this year are American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. Scott, my dear friend who always crushes me here, who will win Best Picture?
I think all signs are pointing to Oppenheimer as the will win for Best Picture. I do think there are maybe a few others that might sneak in there, but I think it's fairly safe for me to say on my part that the prediction here is Oppenheimer.
Sadly, I am forced to agree with you here. Particularly in this category in the past, I have voted with my heart instead of my head, and I always get sorely disappointed. The only two times redeemed, my dear friend, are with Parasite and with oh my goodness, Moonlight.
Yeah.
Were the only two times that I actually came through. I generally do terrible. I never saw Green Book coming for a moment.
Nope, I didn't either. I didn't. Moonlight and Parasite were both my will wins. I'm so happy those ones pulled it off. I think that's two times in recent memory where I fully agree with the decision. But yeah, never saw Green Book coming.
Typically in the modern era, the Academy Awards always disappoint me with this category, tending to be conservative and rather safe. Mm-hmm. It's also a category where they tend to reward convention. They also love a story of white genius and traditional American themes here. Again, it's just what the Oscars do. I join you in saying that Oppenheimer will win Best Picture.
Yep.
All right. Well, Scott, who should though?
Okay, so I've been playing around a lot with this. I think the should and the actual in this case get quite messy.
So I like where you're going.
I'll give you a little bit of a scenario here. I think I worked it out mentally for my own sake, but it does get a little bit messy. So I think in sort of big picture, I've got a big toss-up happening here. I've got two films that I think are kind of way up there, probably above most of the films on that list. And it's kind of a toss-up between The Zone of Interest and Past Lives, which I think are the two films that really, I think, occupy probably the top two spots for my favorite films of the year entirely. So then, obviously, the trick for me was to sort of navigate, well, which one of these would I pick as my should, and which one should I pick as my actual best? So I think if I had to choose, I would take the Jack Hanley route of speaking about this from the head and the heart mentality. And so I think if I go that route, my should win is going to go with the heart feelings. And I think that belongs to me for Past Lives, a film that I just really adored. I absolutely love that film. And so if that were the case, then I'll roll straight into mine too, because I'm going to just give them both to you and then I'll turn it over to you. So if that's the case where I go should is Past Lives as the heart route, I think the actual best is probably The Zone of Interest. I think it's a much more intricately developed film. I think it's a much more nuanced film, and I think it has a much more to say kind of on a global stage as well. So I think that probably takes my actual best.
Yes, and I think that did it for me as well. And I think it's a beautiful dichotomy there with heart and head, because that's exactly how it sums up for me. I'm going to just say that unabashedly, my favorite film of the year was Past Lives. I just loved it, and it never
Yeah.
left me. From the first time I saw it, it was just rapturous, and I love the elegance of it, the
Yep.
quiet simplicity, and where many people were only kind of viewing it in terms of just like a romance, or right, or a
Hmm.
nostalgic look at our own lives. I really saw it as a tale of immigrants, and
Yep.
about this idea of how our identity is tied to our own nations, and I just and our cultures, and I just really thought that was just beautiful and gorgeous. That being said, for me, I think who should and the actual best falls to the zone of interest. This is the head pick here.
Yeah.
And again, for me, the other criteria that I have, and before I say this, let me just also give a shout out to some of my other ones. In addition to Past Lives, Anatomy of a Fall,
Hmm.
fantastic, loved
Yep.
that film. All of Us Strangers, Scott, really moved me in a way too. That I think it was just a perfect year for that film to drop out. I'm one of the defenders of May December. I know that
Hmm.
it shook up audiences and had created a little bit of a critical divide, which are always the films I find
Yeah.
most interesting, by the
Yeah.
way. But I really loved what it had to say about our fascination with tabloid and with persecution narratives. So I thought
Yeah.
that was just
Some
wonderful.
great performances in that film too.
Great
Really
performance.
great performances there.
I love that you come for Moore and Portman, and then halfway through the film turns to say, "Oh, it's Charles Melton
Yep.
and this
Yep.
character," and it was
Absolutely.
phenomenal.
Yeah. Totally
But that
agree.
being said, for me, yeah, best film there, because Scott, my final criteria for this, and we've had this discussion before. For
Yeah.
me, what makes a film like a true masterpiece is not only all those conventions, first of all, of filmmaking elegance, right? Of marvelous direction, doing something fascinating with the cinematography, the editing. Like there has to be an elevated picture on a filmic level. And I think there's a few films on this list that actually meet that criteria.
I
I
agree.
will argue that Oppenheimer is not one of them, but meets that criteria. The last two for me, and this is a me thing, are that they also must be radical and kind of like, and I mean that in terms of like doing something original, trying to change the game and doing something different, which
Yeah.
I like to reward for that for me, but also being vital. Does this have something to say about the moment and our time and our place in history, about us?
Yeah.
And I think that Glazer taking one of the greatest failures of humanity, but framing it in a way that it also serves as an indictment to all of us watching
Hmm.
about the own zones of interest we cultivate in our lives, right?
Yep.
We
Yep.
don't have the wall of Auschwitz, but we have the wall of our screens and
Yep.
our phone screens. And we tend to look away from atrocities all over the world
Yeah.
happening right now, and how and the comfortability which with we can dedicate our lives to curating the garden and the swimming
Hmm.
pool.
Hmm.
So I think that is just a radical film that he delivered for that. So for me, best
Yeah.
film of the year.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it is. It definitely. I mean, I'm glad we're in agreement on those things as well, because I think that film should be praised as much as it is getting that praise, but even praised more, because I think you're right. It totally goes beyond, I think, some of the other more traditional fare that we tend to see getting a lot of that praise. I mean, I just recently was reading about, Steven Spielberg even coming forward and saying, like, this is by far the best Holocaust film since my own,
Since mine.
which is also a little bit of I'm like,
Steven.
I don't know, buddy, it might even be better than yours. But yeah, I was like, well, he knows his stuff too. He's somebody that we oftentimes look to, at least for his filmic knowledge, and say, hey, this guy clearly knows what he's talking about, and even he's giving it the praise it deserves. So yeah, I'm glad we agree on that. I think it's a great choice, and I think it really probably should belong in that top choice place.
Well, viewers, we hope you've enjoyed our special Academy Awards prognostication series. We conclude there, and we hope you're watching the Academy Awards. We're going to be dropping this episode on the night of the Academy Awards.
Yeah.
So we hope you're not cursing us for our terrible selections by this time, because we promised early on we'd help you dominate your Oscar pool. But let's see. We'll see who wins again this year. And we thank you for joining us. And if you've enjoyed these conversations, Scott, tell them what to do.
Yeah, well, first of all, always feel free to participate in the conversation with us. I think that's a huge part. We love to hear from all of you out there who are engaging in these same conversations and these same discussions. So reach out to us. Let us know some of your thoughts. But as always, of course, if you are following us, if you're new to us, or if you've followed some of our other ventures, it is always important also to ask you to please hit that like and subscribe so that you can get our notifications of when we're releasing all of our new content and continue to be a part of our great cinematic journey and discussions.
We love having you part of our cinematic family. My brother, I can't wait to discuss this. I'm sure we'll be texting. We're going to be far away from each other Oscar night, but I'm sure we'll be in communication all throughout the night. Love you, man. Hope you enjoy the Academy Awards, and I can't wait to talk to you again soon.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the decompression of that with you.
Thank you to our viewers for watching, and long live cinema.